On another night I had to work there, a few doctors had transferred offices from one side of the facility to the main building. These offices were pretty far out from it, and for the first couple hours, my shift consisted of nothing else but helping lift and move heavy-ass metal and oak desks to our flatbed, and the rest of the crew handled setting them up in their respective offices. About 4 hours in, all of that stuff had been moved, and I was the last person left over there. I was packing up computers to move because these offices were no longer going to be used. They were built in the mid-70s and were moldy, gross, and just old. If you know architectural stereotypes from the time, you should have a good idea of how these buildings looked on the inside aesthetics-wise. The problem I had with them was that they were fucking cramped and claustrophobic as hell. I couldn't imagine why someone would design a set of offices like this. Getting the desks out was a serious pain in the ass on its own, but feeling like you weren't a sardine can was impossible. The entire place also felt ridiculously out of date from the rest of the entire facility, like it was just stuck in time. The emptiness didn't help that at all either. As I was packing up the last of the computers into a box and was about to carry it out to my truck and take it to the main building, I look over my right shoulder down a brief corridor as I wiped sweat off my brow, and I'm staring right at a fucking child no older than 6, in a typical patient smock. This made me nearly shit myself for a few reasons. 1, I had huge doubts that any children had ever been admitted to this place in the past. And 2, I had huge doubts there ever were children here. This was a place for the condemned practically, not a place of healing. Another reason this almost made me poop my pants was that I looked away and looked back, and he was briefly still there. He was about 6 years old, messy brown hair, greenish eyes. He started laughing at me in a way typical of a goddamn horror movie, and then took down a corridor to his left. Like an idiot, I decided to follow him. I'm already freaking out that I just saw that, and this location was too far from the main building for any of the patients to have realistically gotten out of, or at least without setting off any alarms or security lockdowns. I get to the corridor he took off down, and, as you would expect, nothing. I decided to check out the one behind me just in case, and as I got halfway down it, I came to a set of metal double doors. It was bizarre enough that this hallway seemed more fitting for a preschool, but weirder was that there was even double doors in it. As I got right up to them, and mind you the lights were on, it was well lit and bright in this entire place. The door slammed shut hard, catching my left hand right in it. I felt the flash of pain all the way up to my shoulder, and then nothing. My whole arm felt like it went instantly numb after that. I didn't know it at the time, but that had almost broken every knuckle in my left hand. The door flung back open and smashed the wall so hard, the push bar on it came right off and clanged against the floor. And at the end of the corridor, I see the kid again. He's standing at the very end of the hallway. He walks into a different office that we had cleared a few pieces of equipment out of, and its door slams. It slams so hard, the small pane of glass in the window fucking shatters. Remember, this was all in bright light, no super spoopy grim darkness. I saw all of this shit plain as day, and there was no mistaking at all what I had seen. I swear to fucking Christ, this actually happened. This was the last event I would experience there because after this, I abruptly quit the company and started working in a totally different field. I had taken the gig as a cheap summer job while I was in college. I got the fuck out of there as quickly as possible, told my boss he could get the rest of the equipment in there himself, and quit. I drove to an urgent care place nearby, because like fuck I'm going to trust the doctors in a fucking mental ward, after I'd just gone on a ramble about a ghost kid or whatever that had crushed my hand with a metal door. Yeah, that wouldn't have gone well. And I found out that I hairline fractured nearly every bone in my hand and cracked 2 of my knuckles, my ring and index fingers. I did a bit of researching on that place after that. Whilst collecting a bit of workman's comp for my hand, I needed 2 surgeries on it to get it back into proper working order, and discovered that a lot of child murders who managed to convince a jury of an insanity plea had been locked up there. A few of them made the BTK strangler look like a choir boy. That really didn't settle well with me because, at the time, I was a religious person, and this event directly had an effect on my faith. I felt awful that a god could trap a child's soul in a place that awful and force it to relive that horror for eternity. That it just didn't give a shit. If you can't tell from my posts, I've never really gotten over these incidents.